Greetings. It's Saturday, the 11th of January, 2025. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is a special report about the burning of Los Angeles. The City of Angels is now a place of hell. As of this morning, there's an official death toll of 11. That number is almost certainly going to rise as the debris of what was once a very beautiful city is now going to be sifted through. There's a great deal of misinformation about what's going on in Los Angeles, stories of arsonists running around with ski masks, people on bicycles. There was one person with a bicycle, a homeless man with a blowtorch. Seems to be a random event. There's stories of UFOs and beams from outer space and all sorts of crazy stuff. But I'm going to basically unpack everything of where everything is going to go and how it got here in the first place. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Los Angeles itself. Now, anyone who's ever flown over the city a few times in a holding pattern as LAX is clogged up, and if it's a clear day, you'll see that Los Angeles is surrounded by a form of desert. It's an artificial creation. It doesn't have much water. It never did. What you have is an artificially created city. Because of the temperate climate, it's nice so long as you have water. It's surrounded by scrub brush of a desert kind, and it has very high winds that come out, known as the Santa Ana winds, that make it wonderful if a fire gets going. Now, there's all sorts of people pointing fingers at each other and blaming each other, and there is some blame here and there, but wildfires of this kind have been around ever since people were settling there. True story. My father, who served in World War II in the Pacific, spent time at Camp Pendleton, which had opened in 1942, and he was there in 1943, and in 1943 there were 2 wildfires. His Marine group was sent out to fight them, and he told me way back when, he said it was the stupidest place in the world to build houses amongst all that grass that burns so easy in a hot environment. So wildfires in Southern California are about as common as motion pictures. And nobody should really be surprised at this. My understanding, though, is that the scrub brush there, the grasses that you find in Malibu and all over the place, and it's designed to burn. It's part of the environmental cycle of things. It has a very oily substance in it, where if you throw a match into a patch of that stuff, it's going to go off like a tinderbox real fast. And that's probably what happened. Whether it was arson or not, that place is designed to burn. So building million-dollar, multi-million-dollar homes amidst a tinderbox, well, you kind of get what you ask for if you think about it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very sympathetic to people who've lost their homes, even if they're very wealthy celebrities, and I don't like many celebrities. The most traumatic thing a human being can endure is the burning of the home or destruction of a home next to the death of somebody. It's a very traumatic experience. I've known people who've lost everything in a home, and it's pretty horrifying. But let's go back to the territory there. Los Angeles is a crazy place to build a city, and that was before it became a city. Now, water has been a problem there. You're hearing reports in the news about not enough water, the cisterns are empty, the reservoirs are empty. Water has been diverted from other parts of the state into the sea to protect certain environmental things. There's a lot there. But this also dates back a long time. In fact, if you remember a movie starring Jack Nicholson back in 1974, I believe, called Chinatown. It's not so much about Chinatown and going out and having fried rice and egg rolls. It's about water in Los Angeles. And I'd go back and check out that movie. It's Jack Nicholson with Faye Dunaway. It was directed by Roman Polanski before he became disgraced and fled the United States. I just rewatched it just yesterday, and this has been a point of difficulty and a point of corruption, both official and private. And it's still going on. I've been reading up on this. That's a story in and of itself. But water has always been a problem in LA. Again, why would you build a city with no water and millions of people who need water not being able to get it reliably? Other things is, of course, mismanagement of these resources, such as water, but also failure to keep the environment clean for humans. Let me reemphasize that. When you have the potential for fire in forests and in other areas, you have to spend a great deal of time keeping it clean. They do this in Texas. You don't hear about many forest fires in Texas. They happen occasionally, but rarely, because they manage their forests better than California does. Northern California, Southern California have wildfires all the time because in recent decades, the ultra-liberal, woke, well, let's just call it insane left-wing government has thought it's best just to leave the forest alone and don't touch it. Well, that's great if there's no humans around because it's going to catch fire. Again, it's part of the environmental cycle. Burning is part of the environmental cycle. Yes, it's not all rainbows and unicorns and bunnies hopping around. It is part of the natural way of things. But humans don't like to be burned. Fact. You can take that one to the bank. You have to manage the environment you live in. Is that an inconvenient truth? Well, to people that want to live in bird nests, fine. But they have not helped the environment much in this at all. Now, in terms of blame, let's just look at the incompetent government that you see across the board throughout California. And that starts with the governor who Mel Gibson says probably spends more money on his hair gel than he should on other things, which I found kind of a humorous comment from a man who just lost his home. You have people that get jobs based on their sex, based on their race, based on their ways of getting jollies off in the bedroom. Not merit. Again, the problems of the United States can be rooted in the fact that we don't put people who are capable, who have merit in positions of power. There's all these woke programs. I think a gay chorus was funded by the city recently and all sorts of crazy stuff. They cut the fire budget significantly. Oh, they have an openly lesbian fire chief now who has done a wonderful job. I don't think she got that job because she was the best at it. She got it because, well, she represented equity, inclusiveness. Now, if somebody has that sort of sexual orientation, I don't care, as long as they're the best for the job. But they have to be the best for the job. And the Californians of Southern California, of Los Angeles, are now learning a very, very, very bitter lesson. And for those who knew it was crazy, well, they probably wish they would have gotten out earlier than they did. And we'll get to that in a minute. Let me tell you this about Southern California. It's beautiful. Yes, it's an artificial creation, but I have spent time in Los Angeles. I have been to homes in Pacific Palisades, which now looks like Dresden after the bombing. And I have had wonderful, wonderful experiences there. I went to visit a friend in Long Beach many years ago. And we woke up in the morning and at his home, and he served fresh coffee cake and oranges that were grown in his backyard, and it was sunny, and the temperature was perfect, and wow. It was wonderful. The architecture of some of the old buildings there you will not see again. I remember going to the Getty Museum, which thankfully has been saved. When I was hearing about this, I was really anxious because it's the most beautiful art museum in the world. It's at Malibu, overlooking the ocean. It's built to resemble a Roman villa at the height of Roman civilization, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And the antiques there from ancient Greece and Rome, and the paintings. Oh, the paintings. Maxfield Parrish paintings are there, and there's other masters, and it's just a gorgeous place. It's one of my favorite places in the world to visit. I've been there a couple of times. And thank goodness that was saved. A couple of other historic places were not. The home of Will Rogers, the comedian and humorist who died in 1935. His whole home and estate there that was a museum is gone. And no one wants to hear this. There's no doubt all the rich people and the wealthy celebrities and everyone else must have had massive collections of irreplaceable artworks that are now nothing but ash. Oh, and the environmentalists who share a hell of a lot of blame for this, the ones that think we humans don't need water, or we got to take care of salamanders or something like that, or we shouldn't disturb nature and clean up the forests or the hillsides or cut back the grass. Well, guess what? You've had entire neighborhoods like Pacific Palisades, which is gone, Malibu, which is destroyed. How many homes don't have ammonia and bleach in them and other sorts of very nasty chemicals that you really can't touch without rubber gloves, and you sure as hell shouldn't breathe? Well, you've had thousands and thousands of homes now that have gone up in smoke, and guess what they burned? They burned bleach, they burned ammonia, they burned oven cleaner, they burned all sorts of nasty stuff which got into the atmosphere. What you now have is not just burned out neighborhoods, you have burned out toxic waste dumps. You're not going to grow any palm trees in some of these places for a long, long time. Thank you, environmentalists. Actually, modern environmentalists are not really environmentalists. Hunters are environmentalists. Fishermen, sportsmen are. Did you know that a lot of ammunition has a tax on it for environmental causes, for hunters? They all have no problem paying it. No, the what we call tree huggers, people that don't have a clue as to how to do anything right. Most of them are just losers and bums. You know that California doesn't really have much of a forestry industry anymore. And that's been a problem because you need trees, folks. You need wood. Now, what's going to be the economic impact of all of this? Well, first off, the political fallout, which is tied to, hopefully California will now wake up from its long, insane slumber, which makes the fantasy world of an opium smoker or a heroin user look pale in comparison to the destruction and the horror it's caused. Hopefully the governor will be thrown out somehow. The mayor of Los Angeles, who appears to be a diversity hire herself. The fire chief, well, yeah, she's probably not going to last. You're going to see pretty much what's left of Los Angeles rebel. Now, that's my point. People have been fleeing California for a long time. Pacific Palisades is gone. Big neighborhood. A lot of other neighborhoods, too. That's one of the more famous ones, and it was gorgeous, and I've been there, and my heart goes out. The reason people stayed there amidst all the insanity, all the craziness going on, was because of the beauty of it. That beauty is now gone. And the people who have been burned out are the ones who worked, the ones who had jobs, the ones who were captains of industry, Hollywood movie stars, financial people, the well-to-do, the people that can afford to move somewhere else, and are sick of the taxes, they're sick of the insanity, and the fact that their homes have now been poisoned to the point where they're not going to be able to grow tomatoes in the backyard or anything like that. Well, they're going to go. They're going to leave. There's also reports of real estate speculators going around with checkbooks offering to buy land, and you're going to probably see effectively a Malibu 2.0 that's going to come into existence. What they're going to build there, I don't know, because all the neighborhoods of people who represent the tax base, the people that actually pay money to keep the clown show going there, they're going to go. They're going to leave now. They've already left. They're staying in hotels. They've flown out of state. They don't have anything to pack up. So it'll be easier to get a U-Haul, and it's not easy to get a U-Haul in California these days, I understand. They're going to go away. Those who remain behind, the millions of illegals that have poured across the border. Oh, they're out looting, by the way. I don't know if you've read that or not. Looters are everywhere. They don't have enough police to take care of things. So if you've been evacuated from your home, chances are you'll go back. It'll be as if a fire happened because everything will be gone or destroyed. You know, there was a time in this country's history where we traditionally dealt with looters by shooting them on sight. And that's the proper way to deal with it, folks. Sorry. You see people coming down the street with a TV or boxes of shoes or all sorts of nonsense. Just shoot them. They have no value. Now, that's the way we used to do things. And we were better for it. Because they're declaring war on their fellow countrymen. They're a domestic enemy. But no, we have to coddle them. If California doesn't wake up from this insanity, well, it won't wake up at all. But the tax base is going to vaporize from Los Angeles. There's talk about the federal government coming in and rebuilding everything at no cost to Los Angeles. Oh, wonderful. So I am going to be paying for rebuilding that insanity? No way, Jose. Not me, and I'll bet you a lot of other Americans don't want to do that as well. We'll see what happens when Trump gets into office in a few days now, but the economy of Los Angeles is massive. Now, I'm not sure what the current statistics are, but traditionally it was New York, Chicago, and then Los Angeles that were the three major economic centers in the United States. Fourth was San Francisco or the Dulles Toll Road corridor outside Washington, D.C., where all the big contractors, aerospace, and other sorts of organizations are. But let's just say Los Angeles represents a very major part of the American economy, although it's been shrinking greatly in the last several years. All those people, all those jobs, all that infrastructure, the stuff that hasn't been destroyed is going to leave. It's going to go someplace else. Because I think everyone there who has a few brain cells left are going to say, enough. You can keep your wokeism. You can keep all your 100 different genders. You can keep bringing in millions of illegals to live in the street in tents. It's become the homeless capital of the United States, you know. It's insane what's there. Because 100 years ago, Los Angeles was a paradise. All those beautiful homes. And I guarantee you, all those homes that were built back in the early 20th century, they're not going to be rebuilt that way anymore. I've gotten to stay in some very old, beautiful homes in California, both in Los Angeles and in the San Francisco area. In fact, a friend of mine many years ago had a home that was once owned by Jack London, the author, and I got to stay there for a couple of days. And you should have seen this place. I'm sure it's still there, but it was every corner of this home was like a work of art. I mean, the banisters were carved, and this was a typical home. You had carved flowers in the corners of the ceiling. You had the same sort of thing in Southern California. It was beautiful. Had a sort of Spanish architecture to it, which was gorgeous. You're not going to see that sort of construction anymore. Back to the Getty Museum. When I first went there many years ago, we were taken on a tour because it was just so beautiful, and they said, this is a completely reconstructed Roman villa except for one thing, the tour guide said. You see that long reflecting pool in the center of the courtyard? Well, traditionally it would have been quite deep, maybe 5-10 feet deep, but we have to have it very shallow. Because under California law, it was explained to me, if it's a certain depth and there are people nearby, you need to have a lifeguard on duty. And we decided that wouldn't be appropriate. Said, yeah, I thought to myself, a big white chair with some muscular guy wearing orange shorts and having a whistle around his neck, that would kind of throw off the effect. The regulations of building homes in California are insane. Oh, and the insurance. I know something about the insurance business. I've been an insurance agent. I've been in that line of work, and I know it very well. And I used to have a California insurance license, which I got rid of after a couple of years because it was too nuts. I won't bore you with all the crazy regulations that I had to deal with. Crazy. And that was a few years ago, so I let it go. It was also one of the more expensive licenses to have in the United States. And the problem is people have done something else that's really stupid. They forget the purpose of insurance is to replace a loss. And a lot of people, I'm finding out now, didn't have insurance, including celebrities, or they didn't know anything, or they underinsured. They thought they were, wow, man, I'm going to undervalue my home and get a better deal on fire insurance. And if there's a fire, there's not enough money to rebuild, well, what you gonna do? That's gonna come back to haunt a lot of people. The insurance industry is also pulled out of California as much as they can. Several months ago, a lot of property insurers left. They didn't renew policies. It just wasn't worth it. And ever since the George Floyd riots of 2020, the property and casualty insurance industry has been taking enormous hits, and they're going to pay up big about this one. But I bet finding insurance is going to be next to impossible in Los Angeles after this. The government can't come in and force an insurance company to service a certain territory. It doesn't have that power. So, the economic impact for the United States, hard to gauge at this point because money's going to have to go someplace, but I think Hollywood's done. I mean, you really don't need Hollywood anymore. Films are made in places like Atlanta, in Texas, Vancouver, up in Canada, all over the country. Municipal governments are vying for people to come in and make movies there, or films or TV shows. And now that the movie stars don't have a place to live, and many of them may not want to go back, and I'll bet you most of them won't, they're going to be scattered all over the United States. They can easily go to the film set by airplane, which is what they have to do these days anyways. So the golden age of Hollywood and the glamour and the beauty of Southern California is now burning up in front of our eyes. As of this morning, there's still threats to a lot of places. I believe there's a canyon that's now being threatened, but they seem to be getting the upper hand on this thing. But it's too late. It's too late. Los Angeles and its economy have now been destroyed, and it's not going to come back. It's now become the Detroit of the West Coast, a shadow of once glorious times, when sanity reigned in the United States, when beauty was something we put into our buildings, and when morality and when decency and hard work were rewarded and not vilified and mocked. This is also going to put an end to liberalism in a big way. Wokeism and all those other things. Let me leave you with a quote. I think the worm has turned in this country, and people are beginning to realize how insanely stupid the recent decades have been. And this is a quote from the late P.J. O'Rourke, a very, very entertaining writer, and I do wish you read some of his books. At the core of liberalism is the spoiled child, miserable as all spoiled children are, unsatisfied, demanding, ill-disciplined, despotic, and useless. Liberalism is a philosophy of sniveling brats. California, Los Angeles, is finally beginning to realize how true that is. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends, and especially share with your enemies. Please consider a paid subscription. It keeps the lights on both literally and figuratively. I welcome feedback. My email address is feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I can be reached at X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. That's also my private website, MICCAMPEN.com. That stands for Microphone, Camera, Pen. Let's see here. I'm on a lot of other social media platforms. I'm on Telegram. I'm on you name it, but not Facebook. I'm also up on Instagram. This podcast originates at Substack. My address there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. And this podcast is distributed through Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on YouTube. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World and the Deep State must be destroyed. Good day.